All right, ladies and gentlemen, another edition, the Mitchell Report and Leach podcast. Today I'm joined by a broadcasting journalist, a TV personality, an entrepreneur, an athlete. She's got a book coming out April 27th, The Full Spirit Workout, the 10-step systems to shed your self-doubt and strengthen your spiritual core and create a fun, fulfilling life. My special guest here today, Kate Eckman. How's it going?
Yes, it's going great. I'm happy to be here with you and your smiling face.
Thank you. I appreciate you, and I appreciate that. I know before we hit the record button, I always feel like I got to hit the record button right when we get into the podcast, because I feel like we get into so many decent conversations that don't make the recording. But guess what? We're here right now. So I want to get right into it. Let's talk about the book. What made you want to create this monumental aspect for yourself right now?
I had a 17-year competitive swimming career, so I knew how hard I had to train my physical muscles to compete at a high level for so long. And I was in the middle of a full-time modeling and TV presenter career in New York City and really throughout the globe. And I was experiencing so much anxiety, stress, insecurity, self-doubt, despite all the success that I was achieving. And, I had a great life, great family, great friends. And in the midst of that, I lost not one, but two friends to suicide. And it completely shook me to my core. And not only was I dealing with the grief of losing two people who I loved so much, but it also brought up a lot in me, and it scared me. Because both of these men, like most people, were placing all of their worth in the external world. What they look like, how much money they made, their car, their house, all of those things that our society says you have to be worthy, valuable, loved. And I was on a similar path, and I was scared I was going to go to a dark place. And so, because I already was so caught up in what everybody thought and all the externals. So I really had to do some massive soul searching after not one, but two wake up calls. And I created a system for my emotional and mental, my attitudinal muscles to really get my spirit in shape. And that's what this book is. And I feel like I'm the living, breathing, walking version of this book in terms of putting it to practice. I by no means walk around thinking I have it all figured out and I'm an enlightened master sitting, on the mountaintop. It's practice that you have to do every day, but this workout really works. If you show up and do the work, like going to the gym, I'm your personal trainer. I can tell you what to do, give you the tips, but I can't do your push-ups and sit-ups for you. That's on you. But I've made the system that's fun, and I'm the testament that it works, and with using it on countless coaching clients as well.
That's well said. Beautifully said. There's an insert of the book. Kate Eckman is one of those humans who makes you feel good about being human. Having read her book, I know why. Clinton Kelly, Emmy award-winning television host, stylist, lifestyle consultant. How did that make you feel when you read that insert?
That just makes my heart so happy because, money, notoriety, again, all those external successes aside, at the end of the day, and people ask me a lot, what do you want your legacy to be? Or what do you want people to take away from this book? And I get emotional when people ask me that, because I think when it's all said and done, you see, I'm getting emotional now.
It's all good.
I want people to leave my presence feeling better, feeling empowered, feeling passionate, feeling like I can do what I want to do. I have the tools. I have the power. And having people feel just uplifted. And I think that's the thing, the through line between all of the endorsements that I got on this book was that sentiment. She makes you feel good about being human. She speaks to you from a place of, I've been there too, rather than here's my research. Well, let me tell you about it. And I do tell you about my research, but I really meet you where you are and let you know that it's okay to struggle. Quite frankly, if you aren't anxious and depressed right now, then I worry about you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Why do you feel it's so important to have emotion when we tell our story to our audience, to the people that look up to us, the ones that look to us when we do our social media posts, the ones that look to us when we write certain blurbs in books or certain captions on social media? Why do you think it's so important?
Because our emotions are our truth. And I think the truth is so important. And not everybody is able to tell it, to live it, to speak it because they're scared. They're worried about pushback. They want to appear a certain way. Everyone's trying to appear to have it all together. And when you can just admit that you're struggling, or some days you're not struggling. And I think it's great to say, to celebrate something or to share what you know and to help people and to put that out there as well. And there's that whole notion that, ooh, I don't want to feel myself too much or love myself too much. And people say, well, who does she think she is? And, you know, the whole thinking of the world is the opposite. It's, you know, it is humble, not arrogant, to think that you are an incredible person because you were created by God. If you don't believe in God, you're created by this force that created the sun, the moon, the stars. You're magnificent. We have it backwards. We think we're crap. We think we aren't good enough. We're constantly being bombarded with messages and images showing and telling us how we don't measure up. So, you know, I work as a television presenter and I'm just the presenter. I'm the face of the brand, and I'll be working next to multimillionaires who have created the product. And they speak about it with no passion, and it's such a disconnect to me. And I think now people can smell that out, and people are craving the truth and people to, I mean, I give it to people. I just reposted a friend's message yesterday who's an Asian American and just flat out broke it down about all the derogatory names that she has been called her whole life. And I just said, first of all, I'm sorry. And also, thank you so much for speaking your truth. That couldn't have been easy. Who wants to admit the names that they've been called? But I just felt such a sense of freedom for her and also for myself. And let's just tell it how it is nicely, but let's be real here.
Mm-hmm. No, well said. And I feel like when we tell our story, and, you know, me having this podcast, and you think about all the social media channels that we're on, it can be very, very tough because, not saying me or you, but there's some people that don't want to tell their story. They don't want to get vulnerable. They don't want to show emotion because they say it's unfamiliar territory for a male to share his emotion on social media. I tell everybody, when Kobe Bryant passed away and I did a podcast, I cried all over that podcast. Now, the crazy thing about that podcast is if I didn't have my co-host there to help support me, how would that podcast then look? Every time I would turn on that mic, I would have to do so much editing in the back post production. But I went through, I put my foot on the gas. I said, listen, it's time for me to take a step up, you know, and really focus on what the magnitude of people are counting on me to do this tribute episode and things like that. So hats off to you, you know, and I always say to people, like, it doesn't matter where you come from. Emotion is something that we all have to be able to share at some point in time. If it's through tears, it's through tears. If it's through, you know, having a laugh of something that happened to us when we were a kid, you know, that turns out to be funny, then you share that. You know, you share those testimonials. And I really feel like that's how people start really gravitating to who you are as a person. You know, they don't look at this person, well, they're just a stone. They're not a stone. They show emotion. If I go up and I poke Kate or poke Rory, I will understand that they will show some sort of emotion and things like that, you know?
Thank you for sharing that. That's been a mission of mine, especially losing two men to suicide. And I truly, in my heart of hearts, believe that if society had not instilled in them since they were born to hide your feelings, to not show your pain, to appear to have it all together on the surface, I truly believe that both of these men would still be here. And that has been a mission with me, with women, of course, but especially men. I often work with clients or have friends who are in very high level positions, and it's that constant poker face and I've got it all together. And I flat out just called a dear friend of mine is a very successful college basketball coach. And there's a lot of stress and pressure. And there was a lot of negative things being said about him in the press. And how could it not get to you? I don't care who you are. And one day, flat out, I wasn't even nice about it, but I said, what are you doing to manage your stress? I was demanding an answer because it scares me and I care about people's well-being. And I don't think that people put their well-being first. I think it's an epidemic. That's the biggest takeaway I've had this past year, is that my well-being has to come first. It's absolutely non-negotiable. Not because that sounds cute or it's luxurious or must be nice, but I'm going to go down a dark path if I do not take care of myself. There has been so much stress this past year. Pick your poison. I'm not going to even list everything that, my country, America, but that the world has been through socially, politically, racially, the pandemic. I want to sob thinking about it, and I want to put my arms around the world. And, as a Black man, I want to personally hug you. And there aren't even the words to express what I feel when I think of my African American or just Black men and women, brothers and sisters. So I think that you have to get the emotion out of your body, because just even research, we store it in our fascia tissue, and one day you're going to snap. You're going to feel unhealthy. I've had friends and clients in their 40s or 50s have heart attacks. Again, men who are just stuffing it all down. So I just invite you don't have to do it on Instagram. You don't have to do it socially, but find a trusted friend, mentor, therapist, coach, and just let it out. I almost just said, you're not special. You are very special. However, you're not special in that everyone's experiencing or has experienced pain and suffering or shame. And there's nothing to be ashamed of. You're human, experiencing human emotions. Tell us.
Absolutely. We talk about that part. I feel like we covered some mental health aspect, but let's get into the inner beauty, the characteristics, right? How can we cultivate to help it lift our lifestyle?
Absolutely. I think sometimes people don't even realize how beautiful that they are in terms of their unique gifts or characteristics. And if you aren't up close and personal with what makes you you and beautiful, ask a friend, ask your partner, what they love about you. Because I think of, even men I've been involved with romantically, not one person has ever said, I love you and I'm attracted to you because of what you look like. They might think I'm pretty, but they say, I love to be around you because of your energy. You're funny, you're caring, you're loyal, you're intelligent. Those are the compliments. And those are the best compliments to hear from a romantic partner, quite frankly, too, because the whole you're hot gets old really fast, and you're never going to develop a deep, real connection with anyone based solely on what we look like. So I think if you can go in or think about what you love about your best friends, it's not what they look like. It's, wow, that person really showed up for me when I lost my relative, or that person let me stay at their house when I lost my job, or whatever it is. So what are those characteristics and values? It's loyalty, it's care. And I think the more we cultivate those inner characteristics, the better we feel, the better relationships we attract, the better career opportunities. It has that ripple effect. But we spend so much time comparing and really collecting evidence for how we're not good enough. And when we could be collecting evidence for how gorgeous we are, how human we are, and why we matter and why it's important that we're here.
Absolutely. Something that stood out to what you were saying there is men not wanting to be, again, that vulnerable world. I feel like that's a trending topic for this podcast. Why do you feel, from your personal experience, and maybe this is going to be in the book a little bit, why do you think some men don't know how to show and share their emotion with a woman by going above and beyond the words of I love you and really celebrating the woman that's in front of him?
I think they haven't taken that time and care to love and honor and accept themselves at a deep level. They're still possibly up on that surface level, and they haven't gone deep with themselves. There's a quote by someone that says, it might be Iyanla Van Zant, that says, people can only meet you as deeply as they've met themselves. And so that's why there's so much emphasis placed on, well, is this person really good enough for me? Or is this really my ideal partner? Where the focus should be, am I really the ideal partner for my current or future partner? Have I done the work necessary to create the space for this person's transformation and enlightenment? And I'm smiling and almost laughing because, again, it sounds so counterintuitive, and it's because people aren't doing it. What is it? Hey, I met this great guy. So do you think he's good enough for me? Or, he did this thing I didn't like, rather than, I met this person I'm really interested in, or, hey, I'm married to the person I'm really interested in. And it's always so much easier to look outward and place the blame rather than looking inward and be like, wow, I was a jerk today. Or, wow, I got really triggered by that conversation. I must have an inner wound from dating back to childhood that I still need to heal. But people don't want to do that because it takes time. It takes effort. You may feel uncomfortable for a while. You may feel bad about yourself for a minute. So again, it's like why most people don't have 6-pack abs. I certainly don't, because that I would literally have to give up 90% of what I eat and what I like to eat. And I would be at the gym all day, every day, which I don't want to do. And so I would invite you, though, that it's much easier to have a 6-pack spirit than it is the 6-pack abs. And you can even just start with 5 minutes a day of doing some mindfulness practices, or just taking 5 minutes to get quiet and sit alone by yourself and reflect and check in with yourself. Not, am I hungry? Who do I have to call back? That meeting sucked, but how am I doing today? How am I feeling about my relationships? And that is my mission with this book, and all the work I do is to get people more comfortable with themselves, with other people, with having the uncomfortable conversations, and really going to the depth of themselves and figuring out who they are underneath all of their titles and labels.
If COVID didn't happen, would this book have come out April 27th, 2021?
Yes, it sure would have. I would just be traveling the world, and I'd be sitting with people like you in person rather than virtually. And that would be fun because I miss my hugs. But I think the good news is I still feel the energy, and I'm so extroverted. So even being virtually like this, I can still really connect with you. And that's a decision, right? I'm not distracted. I'm all in. And that's one of my 5 P's of confidence. The first one is presence, and just being so fully present in the moment with whatever you're doing and not taken out by all the other things. And that you brought up Kobe Bryant, who I love. His book, Mamba Mentality, is sitting behind me. Love that man. And that's what I most admired about Kobe Bryant. Besides, I can't tell you all the points he scored or whatever, but his ability to block out the noise. Oh my gosh, I wrote about it in my book because I remember, I was living in LA in the early 2000s. I was a huge fan, and him going back to his hometown of Philadelphia and being booed so loud that the announcers were literally like, you could not hear the announcers. And I just think for myself, especially if I went back to my hometown and I was not only not being celebrated, but being booed to death, that I feel like I would feel insecure. I would feel sad. I would probably play a crappy game. This guy was knocking down 3 after 3 after 3, just teaching a clinic to everyone. Not only did it not disrupt his game, it elevated his game. And those are that is the mentality I have taken into my own life, to block out the noise, because there's always going to be noise. That's the thing. People like, I don't want to feel stressed. I don't want to feel sad. And as psychologist Susan David would say, oh, you have dead people's goals. Like, that's a dead person's goal. Not want to feel stressed. It's always going to be there. So it's like, what are you going to do about it?
I like how you say blocking out the noise, because for me, anytime I go into the space of podcasting, I got to block out the noise, because I could be just coming from work. I could be coming from the gym. I could be coming from something that's going on, the magnitude of the moving parts. I tell this to everybody. I was like, if you get into a day in the life of Rory and you see the moving parts are, you'll understand. And you well know about that, right? Especially just by the journey that you've traveled. One of the things I do is I either do it one of 2 ways. I either take my earpods, I put them in my ears, and I blast music. I just shuffle through songs, because I got to get my mind into a different orbit, because I know that I have a show that people are counting on to want to hear. There's a product here for the last 4.5 years, over 200 and some odd episodes that has to be delivered to the content, to the people that are going to be counting on me. And I sometimes will sit here and it's like, I give myself even more time. So it's like, even coming into this podcast, there was limited time okay, let's look at the time. I said 5:30. We're going to connect. We're going to make sure we're going to bring out the best piece of work that we can. So I blast a couple songs, 3 different songs. Boom. I get into my streaming thing and we're good. We're here. You know what I mean? And that's how inner blocking out the noise you have to do, because you have to psych yourself up. Because some days, some people are like, oh, I don't want to get up. I don't want to go to the gym. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. I don't want to read. I don't want to listen to a podcast. I don't want to go visit my friend. I want to play video games, or I want to watch Netflix. No. If you want to excel in life, you got to know how to block out that noise, get those headphones on and hear what you want and get into your zone. Because once you get into your zone, that's how you'll be able to deliver.
Absolutely. And thank you for sharing that. And I'll share that I am absolutely exhausted today. I've been recording my audiobook and it's fantastic experience, but also exhausting and emotional. And I've been staying up way past my bedtime, not to sound like an old lady, but that was my thing too. This was on my schedule. You have the time. And I did the same thing. I listened to some music and I sat quietly and just took some time to myself. And then I really connected with my trust muscle, and I trust that I'm going to show up and focus on connecting with you and your audience and being in the moment. What is supposed to come out will come out. And I do so much work around confidence and confidence building, and confidence actually stems from the words to trust, to do something with trust. You know, again, people think there's some magic pill for confidence, and it is an inside job, and it starts with trust. And I think that's so beautiful because it's free. You can access it at any time. And it is a practice. You just practice, settling in and trusting whatever comes out, trusting the process, trusting yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They say health is wealth, and you got to do some sort of exercise, right? You got to at least go for a walk, go for a run, go to the gym, do a home workout, do yoga, move your body. But let's get into the spiritual side. What is spiritual fitness, right? And how can we use it to transform our lives?
Sure. So the full spirit workout is a play on the full body workout that you often hear advertised at the gym, but it's also about bringing your full spirit to everything you do and to everyone you meet. So what is your full spirit? Your full spirit is your power and your purpose, your presence, your passion, showing up with that energy, like you mean it. You know, so many people, they say something and I think, I don't believe you. You say it with no conviction. And so right now, even a perfect example of that is just all the hatred going on in the world right now. And you think, how can this even flourish, this mentality? Because they are convicted in their hate. We have to be more convicted in our love and our desire to raise a vibration of the world, which starts with ourselves. So spiritual fitness is all of that. And really, and the training I've had as a coach, it's called a whole person coaching technique. So it's bringing your whole person to every situation. And that includes, yes, you're physically there, but your emotions, your mentality, your spirit, and bringing that forth and building strong mental and emotional muscles. And you do that by doing the practices, it is about your thoughts. It is about actually feeling what you're feeling and learning more about yourself and what triggers you. And as I like to say, when you're building your spiritual fitness, when you see the anger train coming, you see the breaking news coming, you don't get on board. You're able to no, I'm not engaging in that. And as you know, that's a practice. And there's always, when we're triggered or you think of that person who really knocks you off your game, that just shows you your limit to love. And it shows you the work that you need to do.
When you wrote this book, what was the most important tool you had to bring to yourself to the table?
That's a great question, because a lot of people do say, I want to write a book, or how do you write a book? And my swimming career it's prepped me for my whole life. I mean, I don't think anything will ever be harder than being a swimmer, and what we go through, and training 6 days a week, 2-a-days, 3 or 4 times a week. And for that long, on top of everything else you have going on in your life, it is insanity. And you don't make a penny, as you know, and nobody cares about swimming or not football or basketball. So you have to really love it. You have to love it. And so my discipline really showed up to get this project done. But also I had a really, really, really strong why. My why was Sam and Rolf, my angels who are no longer with us. My why was really wanting people to feel less alone in the world. My why was a celebration of life. My why was getting people fit on the inside so that they can truly realize and live their full potential, and then create that ripple effect in their families and communities. And I just believe that we're here to feel really good and to enjoy life. I think everyone has forgotten that. I mean, it's been challenging this past year, but we are here to enjoy ourselves, you know, and these tools really give you that musculature and that ability to do that. I'm not saying it's easy, and some days will absolutely suck. Yes and yes, but it's how you manage that. And when you start to really put these tools into practice, you develop that musculature that can literally weather any storm.
Absolutely. Well said. You work a lot with business professionals and professional athletes and things like that. Why do they go to you for coaching?
I think because I've been where they have been. I'm someone who knows what it's like to always be on and has experienced a lot of stress and pressure with a forward-facing career, experiencing a lot of judgment, rejection, criticism. And, you know, so besides the credentials and that things, which I've worked my butt off to do all of that, but I think it's the energy too, because a lot of my clients, they had the opportunity to choose between several coaches. They met with a bunch of us. And I just think my energy resonated with them, according to them. And what did someone even say? He said, I can tell you care. It isn't just going through the motions or this is my job, let me show up and dial it in. Again, it's that presence, and people can really sense who genuinely cares about them, because you get to a certain level, just like being a college athlete. You know, we've all in Division I, we were all high school state champion. We've all been, you know, to the Olympic trials. So what separates you? It's going to be your attitude. It's going to be your work ethic. It's going to be that energy that you bring. And I think that they see and experience that. And it's even a little bit of how I used to feel with Phil Jackson, who was mesmerizing to me as a spectator. I'm like, how is that man so cool, calm, and collected? I had never seen anything like it. And it was that when Harry met Sally moment of, I don't know what he's having, but what is it? What is that? And so I did what any great journalist would do. I Googled him, and I just found all of his disciplines and all of the mindfulness practices that he used on all of these superstar athletes. And that was his winning edge. So you always have to cultivate that winning edge. It's different for everybody. And I call it our original medicine. I got that from my speaking coach, Gail Larson. And it's that thing that makes you uniquely you, that you're born with, that if you don't share that gift with the world, you're doing such a disservice to everybody, especially yourself. And mine is my infectious enthusiasm. I show up, even like 2 seconds I met you and you're like, oh, wow. Because I'm excited about life. Let's go. Come on.
No, well said. And I feel like when we look at these counterparts that we see either in TV or working worlds and things like that, we want to always get into their mind. You know, how does the business mind, but maybe not even the professional athlete mind of how things work. Like myself I would love to get into the mind of Denzel Washington. I'd love to sit there for a day, you know, a couple hours, a few hours to talk to him, speak to him, and just learn just the gems out of life that I know he's going to give me. So I rephrase this question to you. If there's one person in this world you would love to coach or mentor, who would it be and why?
Wow, what a fantastic question. Of course, you know, Oprah Winfrey comes to mind, but and then there's people like that, like a dream person. I was about to just say, I'm glad I caught myself. I was about to just say But, Oprah Winfrey doesn't need a coach, and I'm going to stand corrected because I say this all the time to potential clients who are in the athletic world or athletic coaching world and maybe kind of feel that same sentiment. Well, I already won a championship. Why do I need a coach? And I think of Tom Brady, I think of LeBron James, and I think those two, for example, have more coaches than anyone. They train harder than anyone, not because they're the worst, but because they're the best. So then an Oprah, I would love to work with an Oprah because, just what's going on with you? Or she's another person, which she doesn't. She's so real, but like appears to have it all together all the time. But, maybe after that Harry and Meghan interview, hey, how are you doing? Or what do you think? And just even to help her process it. And maybe she has goals she hasn't even thought of because she doesn't think she has time, or I think just teasing out through asking really, really empowering, engaging questions, maybe even get a little nugget out of Oprah of something she hasn't thought of before perhaps.
Yeah, I would second that with you. I feel like that's an interesting mind. As somebody is a podcaster, there's a lot of people I'd love to just interview. One of the people, and I say this to people, and people are like, yeah, really? That's going to happen? I say, Drake. Yes. Aubrey Graham. At some point in time, me and him have to sit into the Coliseum, right? It's going to happen. I've manifested this because there's questions I want to ask him that I know a lot of the big focal point moguls or whatever you want to call it, however you say it, in the interview space are going to ask him questions that I feel like are watered down, but I want to humanize them. I want to have human conversations outside of the professional music world, right? What makes him maneuver in his world, because there's questions to ask. Like, for you to wake up and have to step outside your house and have 2 massive bodyguards around you at all times, is there ever a day comes that you just want to live a normal life where you don't have to deal with that? That's the answer I want to get, because I don't feel like any of these guys will ever ask him that question, because they want to know about the albums. They want to know about the releases. They want to know about the collaborations.
Yeah.
They want to know about the hip hop beef and the drama. Nah, let's humanize them. Right.
I love that. What just came to mind for me was Rachel Maddow, the political commentator for MSNBC. She asked it wasn't a hypothetical question, but she knew she wasn't going to get the opportunity. But she had a question for President Trump when he was president. And she was listing all the things that had happened in his presidency. And the question, and again, no one's ever going to ask him this, and he's never going to answer, at least truthfully. But she wanted to ask him, was it worth it? All of the things that you've lost in terms of, because he really cares about celebrities and what they think and all of that stuff. And I mean, she listed the whole gamut, and she kept saying, would you do it again? Was being president worth it? And again, those are the questions. You're right, because we hear the same things over and over, and it is fun to get in there. Even a man, we talked about men and not showing emotion. I have a colleague who was like that when I met him. I did not care for him because it was the wall up, and I was, it's so frustrating. And I sat next to him at a lunch break, and I just looked at him. Second question I ever asked him in my life. And I said, are you close with your family? And he looked at me and said, no. And I said, I feel that. And I said, tell me why. And he said, well, and he said, my mom died, my brother died in an accident, this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. And I could feel him soften to me, and he changed his whole demeanor, and he blushed, and he laughed, and he said, wow, you just get right in there, don't you? And I said, yeah, I hate surface level conversations. And I could feel his wall, and I wanted to get in there. And throughout the week in this intensive training we did together, I mean, he softened so much. He's now a close friend of mine. And I was known to everybody as the empathetic coach and empathetic woman. And this man, I said, you know what? I think you're a closeted empath and a closeted, he's so caring. And he called me upset his dog died. And I just, the fact that he was able to soften to me, I think that's it too. And that's what, when you were talking about Drake, because yeah, he would come on your show and be in character, right? He would be Drake, the performer and the presenter. And what you're saying is you want to talk to Drake, the human who sleeps and eats and cries, or,
whatever he does,
like the rest of us, whatever he does that we all do as humans. And you want to, like, what's up? I don't want to talk to Drake, the performer. I want to talk to Drake, the person. And they're the same, but different.
Yeah. And it's so funny. It goes back to a Clubhouse conversation I was listening to with a group of podcasters and things like that. And, I was just in the audience and I was listening to a lot of powerful, enriching ways to interview. And it's the power of the speech and the pause. So when I look at a person like Drake or anybody that I'm going to have come on a podcast or do a talking piece, and I feel like me and you, we both come from the same cloth. We are people that want to learn about the magnitudes of who we are dealing with. You're yourself, you're a coach. Myself, I'm a coach. I come from the health and fitness industry, then transitioned to a life coach. So when we get to connect with people, we know the right questions to ask because we want to humanize somebody, right? And I always say is when you can connect with somebody on a deeper level, it's different. And there's some people that like surface level conversations. So my question to you is, because I know the answer, but I want the audience to really connect with this. How do we, as a society, with everything that's gone on from COVID to, social injustice issues that are happening, how do we as human beings have more deep-rooted, deeper level conversations instead of surface level conversations?
I love that. And it's my favorite thing in the world is to deeply connect with someone and have real conversations. And it starts with us, because when you deeply know yourself, when you have developed that self-awareness and you know what makes you tick, you actually know yourself, then you're able to get in there with another and you crave it, which is why I can't do the like, hey, how are you? Or, it's kind of cool to know where someone's from or what's your birthday, whatever. But, even just looking at your face right now or in your eyes, I just, there's a whole story there. And so I want to ask those questions, and it might start with, where'd you grow up? Are you close with your family? What's that like? And you might say, yes, and my dad this. And then because who your parents are and where you come from is so much of who you are. And so then you're able to just get in there. And people have a lot of pain from their childhood. Even if you've had a good childhood, we were all raised by imperfect people, even if we had great parents, and the stuff messes with you. Or even like I talk about in my book, being 4 years old at swim lessons and hearing that swim instructor communicate to my mother something along the lines of, I'm not a very good swimmer. And how sad that as this sweet little young innocent child, I internalized some comment from a stranger and made that a core belief. And I had the discipline and drive to show him, and I became an incredibly accomplished swimmer, but at a huge expense of having this obsession with performance and perfectionism, leaving me with the pain of anxiety and insecurity. And so it's working through that. But you deeply connect with people when you are deeply connected to yourself.
Well said. Well said. Before we get out of here, what's your favorite insert of your book that's coming out April 27th, 2021? That's a few weeks away.
I know. I'm so excited. So insert meaning chapter, lesson, endorsement. What do you mean by insert?
Chapter, endorsement, chapter and endorsement.
I love my whole book, and I do. I love it. What just came to mind, two things. I do a ton of work around confidence, as I've mentioned. So talking about my 5 P's of confidence, all of that. And then step 6 is boost your mental metabolism. And I love that because we've all kind of heard of, my step 1, which is stretch your comfort zone. And I speak about it in a different way. But with boost your mental metabolism, I feel like no one has ever heard of that, or they're like, what the heck is that? And that's converting our thought patterns into energy and getting a handle on that so that you don't have negative self-talk and horrible thought patterns that are keeping you so low vibe and energy. So I do. I love all of it though, because it's all the stories. It's the journaling exercises. It's the meditations. It's the Coach Kate check-ins where I'm, they're heartfelt but gritty. And then ending each chapter with the affirmation and something you can kind of just ground into your heart, into your spirit, and keep doing it. Endorsements. I was so grateful for my endorsements. I wish I had one here to actually read to you. I mean, they're all on the book's website, thefullspiritworkout.com. But even, I recorded part of my audiobook the other day, and this woman, Courtney Carver, who's a fellow author, she's amazing. She's really into simplicity. She's a minimalist. And I did her book launch event a year ago, right before COVID shut the world down. And it was a great time. And she wrote the foreword to my book. And when I was reading it, the part I feel like makes me emotional even now. The part that made me emotional is when she said, Kate is the living, breathing version of this book. And when she said, Kate meets you where you are, that just really touched me because it's true. And I think, again, we place so much emphasis on the money and the this and the likes and the followers and all of that stuff. But I don't think I know the biggest compliments and how I define success is by hearing things like that. Kate meets you where you are. What a beautiful thing to hear and read and receive, because it means that I'm connecting with you. I see you. That's another favorite thing in my book, is talking about the importance of paying a gratitude visit, even a virtual one, and thinking of someone who touched your life that you've never properly thanked, because we don't do that, right? Where you might say, hey, thanks for being there. But I'm talking about writing them a letter. And I wrote my friend Vanessa a letter, and reading that aloud made me very emotional too, because Vanessa is a trans woman. And I think about how challenging it is to be who we are in this world, to be authentically as we need to be. And I'm a woman who up until this point has chosen not to get married or have children, which most people, or a lot of people, think is really weird. Because I'm not following the tribal norm. It's not a societal standard to not settle and to hold out for what you really want. And so writing that letter to Vanessa and just thanking her for her courage and bravery, and how often that we share those sentiments with her, and reading it to her. And she cried and I cried. And I invite all of your listeners to think of someone who has really touched your life. At that time, I had only known Vanessa a couple of months, but she had a profound impact on me. And to write that person a letter. And if you can, or after COVID, go to their house and read it to them, or schedule a Zoom meeting and read it to them. It will, the effects, even according to Martin Seligman, who's the founder of positive psychology, who I learned about this exercise from, he said that that simple act has a lifelong effect on both you and the other person. I feel like I just went on and on there. I'm sorry, but
no, don't worry about it.
I'm really passionate about telling people, because what do you always hear, Rory? Man, I wish I would have told that person how much I loved them before they died. And it's all this sobbing when someone dies. Mm-hmm. And it's like, tell them while they're here. It's Wednesday at 5 p.m. on some ordinary day. Tell them.
Exactly.
Tell them.
Exactly. That's what COVID did. COVID made us, and it forced us to reconnect with the right people in our life. And I know a lot of people miss that, because I went hard in the month of March and April to make connections with people, to check on people's well-being. And when you knock on that door and there's nobody there to answer, well, then you already know where you stand. But the ones that opened up the door, turned on their signal and said, hey, listen, let's connect, then you knew what it was really all about.
It's the season of letting people fall away too, with love.
Absolutely. Before we get out of here, the book. I need a copy of the book.
Of course, you'll get a signed copy, my friend. My new friends.
Thank you. Amazing. Are we going to see a book tour after everything is done? Because I know, I never really asked this question to any authors, and I've had magnitude of different authors on here. How does the book launch look now? Very remote, can't be certain places. You're in New York, so you probably have some, maybe private little small circle of people, important people. How does that book launch look? And are you going to do one after we're out the clear in this COVID mess?
Yes and yes. Right now, I'm having a virtual book launch party, which everyone's invited to. It's through Joseph Beth Booksellers, and it'll be online. If you go to thefullspiritworkout.com, that's where you can pre-order the book, sign up. Everything's there. I would love to have you. It would be so much fun. I'll also put it on. Okay, good. Yeah. So I'm trying to look at the positives, and the positive is a lot of people who couldn't get to New York, for example, you can click a button on the computer and join online. So I will be having a virtual party, which will be a lot of fun. And then, that's my goal too, I work as a speaker and to just keep doing speaking events that become non-virtual in the future. And because I did have a moment actually today, it's funny you should ask, where I'm like, wow, there's not going to be that moment of me signing all the books or the picture of me with the stacks of my books. But I said, there will be. It might not be in the next couple of months, but you'll go speak at some event and you'll have all your books and you can sign them. You can look at people in the face. You can touch them or hug them and hand deliver them your book. And I say that to everybody, whatever your thing is. There will be that time where you can do that thing again, and to just hold on. We're at the tail end here. Luckily, the weather's getting nicer. It doesn't feel as doom and gloom. And yeah, because my book is universal. My book is the exercise and the workout that we need forever and always. So yeah, and I'm going to write more books. So stay tuned. I'm going to come visit you in Toronto, if you'll have us Americans anymore.
Listen, we'll do it. And it's so crazy. Like we spoke about a familiar name, that we both know and stuff like that. And by the time this comes out, the podcast is already going to be aired. Episode be 279. Mario Armstrong, 2-time Emmy winner, such a brilliant man, and just have so much barrel of joy. And I've been telling them and his team and the guys he works with, Toronto is going to be the spot. It's going to be happening once we're out of this. Like, I better see conferences. I better see every single one of you guys at some sort of conference or doing some sort of world tour. We can for a day or two. Let's make it happen. Let's set it up and let's have that happen. It needs to happen.
I can't wait. We will toast. We will hug. We will take the picture and we will practice what we preach, right? We're going to go out and I'm going to be asking you some deep questions, see what you have to say.
So this is what we'll do. This is what we're going to do before we even hit the end button. I'll invite you to come back on this podcast because there's something that I'm actually working on doing. I'm actually working on where I want to do an open Q&A as a connection piece. And I just want to have a handful of people, probably like 4 to 5 people, 3 questions each. I don't want to see the questions, so I'll get somebody to honestly look at the questions. And then if there's any duplicates, figure something else. And I want to read it in real time. Have people, I'll set it up. It's going to be something interactive. I want to make it like an event. Like I actually want to make this thing an event, a remote event that people can ask whatever questions they want to ask.
I love that.
Nothing off limits.
Can I at least ask you one question right now?
Go right ahead.
Okay. So if a miracle occurred tonight, when you woke up tomorrow morning, what would your life look like?
Wow. That's a great question. A miracle. Miracle, like with the podcast. I just think a little bit deeper. Like
it can be anything. You could be Denzel Washington. You could have your exact same life, but some major goal happen. And I would love for you to even speak that goal into your mic and into the world right now.
The miracle would look at still living the same way that I'm living right now. Right. And I know some people put me on a certain pedestal and it's fine. And I get it. But I want to be always humanizing myself. I'm still Rory. It doesn't matter who comes on this show. They're all important. But that because I have this person that comes on the show, I'm going to answer your question. That doesn't mean that I think I'm bigger and I'm better and you guys have to put me on a pedestal. It's not what it's about. And I always say that very, very humbly. So the miracle would be live the same life that I'm living. Doesn't matter what interview it is. It could be Denzel Washington. I get to meet him. Well, I'd have to tell my job that. I'm going to say, guys, I'm sorry. Like, I'm probably taking a sick day. It could be an interview with Drake. I'm taking a sick day. This is what's happening. This is game changing now. This changes. This is bigger than work. They may not like that. Well, guess what? Those are the sacrifices that you have to make. But I would put my best foot forward. I'd give thanks and praise to the universe, to the Lord, and just continue to keep on having my blessings that I know that was passed down to me through my parents and through my grandfather.
I love that. What would interviewing Drake and Denzel mean to you? Like, why do you want to interview them?
Drake, because I just feel like I feel like I want to get in there. There's something in there that I feel like I can get in, I can pull out. Because I watched a 2-hour interview that he did 2 Christmases ago. And I was like, why does he keep looking up? What's he looking up at? Every time he goes to answer the question, he kept looking up. So he'd always look up. I'm like, what are you looking up at?
He does do that. And I do that too. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
But from a psychology standpoint, they say if you look whatever left or right, it means whatever. I don't know about the whole looking up factor. So that's one of the questions I want to ask him.
Okay, because I'll just say when I'm looking up, I'm looking at God and my angels. Like, what's up, guys? So I'm curious what his is. Oh, that's a great question for him.
Why you look up? Like, that's one of the questions. What it would mean to me, it's not because it means now I turn celebrity, full of, I could just see what would happen. The life would change. But it would make me say that was a job complete, mission accomplished. That's my personal journey. And whatever else happens, let it happen. But I had the ability to interview Drake. I can tell my kids that he interviewed the best artist in the last however many years. Denzel, one of the top 10 actors of all time. And if anybody wants to debate me on that, please go right ahead.
I mean, without a question, for sure.
Top 10. I didn't say top 5, top 10. I put him in my personal thought as top 5.
Or he could be even top 1. I mean, yeah, that is subjective because it's what he and his performances and his talent meant to you. And that's
100%.
Whatever you're putting out there, your book, your podcast, your movie, it's at least me. And I think with actors and with you, you want people to feel, you want people to have an experience. You want people to learn something new about themselves. You want people to heal an old wound. You want people to celebrate. It really is about that feeling and connection. And that's been our theme, certainly here today. And I can't talk about it enough because I do feel like it is lacking. And when you look around, you see that people living in the same house that are disconnected, for example. And my mission is connection. Let's connect. And that's why I think I'm speaking for you, but I'll say that's why I love Denzel and Drake because they connect us to ourselves in a deeper way. They make us feel.
Absolutely. Any last words before we get out of here? I want you to plug your social media, plug where they can take a look at the book. The book already is coming out April 27th, 2021. I said that 3 or 4 times now. April 27th, 2021. Everybody that's listening, make sure you check it out. Look at it, buy 2 copies. Buy a copy for your friend, your mom, your dad, whoever. You know what I mean? Even the neighbor down the street. I always like to say those analogies. But Kate, close it out.
So I would love to connect with you because I'm a connector. You can go to thefullspiritworkout.com, pre-order my book or order my book and get a lot of free bonuses, which I would take advantage of. You can find me online at Kate Eckman, ECKMAN.TV. I'm Kate Eckman on all the social medias. Would love to connect with you there. Please send me a little note or make a comment if you found me here so that I can follow you back and we can connect. And I'm going to have to get a podcast because I want to have you on, Rory, because now I have 8,000 questions for you. So maybe I'll just call or email you sometime. Now I have a bunch of questions.
Listen, if you don't have a podcast by now and you're not having a story to tell, I don't know why. And that's not a direct to you, anybody that's listening. If you have a story to tell, get a podcast and do it for all the right reasons, because that's the best way to tell your story. It doesn't have to be in a mic or speaking into a mic. Do short little clips. Do 7 to 12 minute clips. Post it on Instagram. Post it on YouTube. Eventually, you're going to get into the monetization aspect of it, and you're going to get paid for your craft. This is what's happening in the world of entrepreneurship and content creation. You're getting paid for your craft, for telling a story, not faking the funk, and being human. That's all I got to say for the Mitchell Report Unleashed podcast.
Amen to that.
Beautiful.